excited. We have the next half of our presentation, or our meetup tonight, is Eric Oestrich. He is the creator of ExVenture. So ExVenture is, what I love about it is, first, it's a game, so that makes it fun. It's also a non-trivial Elixir application that is open source. It's a complex, node-connected, clustered kind of cool application. It's using gen servers, it's using metrics, it's using all these really cool things. And Eric made it free. And so we are going to actually be using this project as a thread as we continue with more topics. So as we talk about gen servers, we can talk about some of the principles of a gen server, show some, play with it, and then say, and this is how it's actually working in ExVenture. And so we can kind of look at it. And ExVenture is something that you guys can download and play with on your own too. So I'm super excited to have Eric here. He agreed to meet with us tonight. So thank you, Eric.
If you've ever played something called a MUD, that's what this is. It's a super old school. You either have a MUD client and it talks through Telnet, or you can use the web page, which has a web client. Can Zoom do screen sharing? Okay, so this is ExVenture. This is the hosted, I have a hosted game called MidMud. Everyone can go there now if you have a laptop open. It's midmud.com. So while we're doing that, I don't know how big your TV is, so I'm just going to assume it's too small. So this is kind of your interface. You have your name, some game stats, bunch of nice little stats down here, and then there's just like a big center text pane. So we can move around. So this is west, east. I'll go a little slower. North, south. You can also click these in here to move around. You can see there's some NPCs hanging out here. So this has there's a postmaster because we're in the shipping company. Let's see, I'm just gonna run real quick. Oh, there was a goblin. So this is it's an RPG, right? So you can fight the baddies. So I can throw a fireball at him. Deals damage, all this fun stuff. He drops some gold, so we can see that gold. You can say, get gold, pick it up. It's in my inventory now. So it's kind of the typical RPG things. So this is what the back end looks like. This is the admin panel. So I can go ahead and click in to see all my stats. The fun 444 hours. What I've, like the quests that I've completed, whatever's in my inventory, some basic session stats to see like, mostly for when someone shows up for like 2 minutes, I can see what they did, whether it was like a bunch of stuff or nothing. And then this is the raw save data. So you can edit pretty much, you can edit everything in the game through this. So this is what a fighter class has. So they have kick, bash, slash, and then distracting strike is not implemented, so I've turned it off. It's more of a hopeful in the future. The game is broken up into zones. So if you played a graphical MMO, this might be more familiar. So like if you play WoW, this is like Elwyn Forest, Red Ridge type stuff is like what the zone is. And then when you go into the zone, you have rooms. So this should be where everyone's starting. This is Claybrook. You probably started here. So you can see there's a town crier, a villager, and some cats that then go ahead and wander out. So if you see Barley, Rosie, or Sam, those are cats. And if you think they just wander around and meow, every so often they'll go ahead and try to move. Yeah, if you talk to them, they'll meow directly back at you. There's internal channels. So I can say, hello, everyone. And that should have just shown up for everybody. So you can also talk in local rooms. So this is specific to the room that we're in.
So who killed the town crier?
Yeah. I'll just have to get all of you. So yeah, see, that's kind of how combat works. It's PvP by default just because I haven't gotten to doing anything else at the moment. This new action bar is relatively new. The reason this is here is so that it works better on mobile. So if you load this, you can at least move around, like run around and whatnot, and do combat via mobile. Oh, looks like someone just crashed the game. This is actually pretty cool. So Midmud is actually 3 nodes, so I'll get the Sentry error report probably now, telling me what that was. It should have recovered, but yeah. So the Power of Elixir, we crashed the game, but it's still up and running just through a refresh. I can see this, you can't. This is admin powers of debugging. So we landed on World 2. We can see World 2 or 2, 3, and 1, and this is the clustering stuff. So this has been picked as leader of the group. Looks like someone's trying to get me. The other cool thing is that this is also connected to something called Gossip. So this is a cross-platform or a cross-game chat network. So here's everyone. They're being shown to everyone else on the network. Every time you sign in, it gets sent out 2 people. So the people on Apotheosis will be seeing this, and maybe we can chat with them. Someone's trying to damage me, so I'll just run away for now. So you could do this. This is tied to a remote channel. So if you say over here, everyone should have access to this by default. So this just went out to the network. Right, and so that got pushed up here. This is Grapevine. This is the player side, so you can attach your characters to your remote profile and eventually do achievements and all kinds of fun stuff similar to like Xbox Live and PlayStation Network. That's the plan. It's not there yet. But
one of the things I want to mention is that he has really good install instructions on his website. If you go to exventure.org, yes. And so he has install on the left side. And so one of them that I liked doing, it was really easy for me, was the bottom one is Docker. But if you already have Docker installed and you already have Docker Compose installed, then you can just do bring it up that way. And what's really cool about that is it brings up a Prometheus server with a Grafana server. And so you're actually seeing, you can actually look at here's the Grafana, and you can see the stats and the metrics of what's happening in the game. And he's got that all set up, and that's like all free, something that we can dig into and learn from. So yeah, you can see we got 11 players online right now.
Yep. And so this is all live the last 15 minutes. So we can shrink that down to the last 5 minutes. So you can see the different number of logins. So it looks like we had a bunch of successful ones, no failures, which is cool. These are the commands everyone's running. So let's see, a minute ago, lots of looks, lots of moves, skills as people are doing combat. Looks like we had someone do a bad parse, which is a wrong command. This is the just kind of communication channel. So there's a bunch of emotes from that's just kind of background noise that the NPCs are doing. We had a say, gossip, global, all kinds of stuff there. This is the movement histogram data. So this is how long it takes for every character in the game to move around, kind of averaged out. So we're at the 99 percentile is 21 milliseconds. The average is 2.9. Got some parse percentiles. So this is microseconds, which is fun. So this is how long it takes to turn your command text string into an actual command. And then this is how long it takes for every command to happen. So not just movement. So this is where we're 45 milliseconds is the 99 percentile. There's also commerce that I don't ever look at because I never really made it work or filled in with metrics and whatnot, but it's there. I met Eric at ElixirConf, and I saw this Grafana thing. It's like, oh, I'm working on a Grafana dashboard too. And it was him that explained to me, like, there's an Elixir library called Prometheus EX, and it was looking at his project and this open source project where I figured out that's how you do it.
It's like, that's why I'm so excited that we're able to kind of build on this project. Because like, you know, you have, like, I assume a lot of you guys are professional developers and you're working, you know, for a living, and you have projects where you're, the people in your company would love to have some insight and some business intelligence to things that are happening in your systems. And like, when does an important metric happen? Like a new sign up occurs, or someone places an order, or, you know, like whatever the primary purchase, you know, the primary operation, like, you know, a background check was run, or, you know, whatever the metrics are that are specific to your business. It's like, we're going to be digging into some of that stuff. When you run this locally, you can see, then you can log in as admin. And so then you can see all the admin stuff that he's able to do too. And one of the commands, I wanted you to see if you could explain how this one works, but I saw the command where you can crash something intentionally.
So we can do this to everyone in Claybrook, right? So I can crash this whole zone like that. So I just restarted the whole thing. So anyone who was in, looks like I extra crashed it, but it recovered. So there we go. So yeah, so that we can, if we want to start taking a peek at code, should have made this a different color. Cool. Right, so we can start taking a peek at some commands. All right, so this is the crash command. So we have some metaprogramming up here with the use game. This is a macro that fills in some data for the help stuff. You guys are talking about pattern matching. We've got some of that here. So this will only pattern match on crashed room and zone. I think I'll actually probably crash my own process if I don't use both those. But when it does this, it sends a crash. It does a gen server call to this crash. So if we look at the zone, because this little rooms are slightly weird because there's two styles of it here, right? So crash a room process or a zone process with an unmatched cast. Like, there should never be a matching length for this. So this sends a cast, and then it'll go down to the handle casts, and then try and pattern match its way through until it hits the bottom here, and then it will just blow up. So yeah, and then supervision trees do magic stuff and restarts everything.
Yeah, we have a lot of people here who are, about half of the attendees are fairly new to Elixir. Kind of coming back to what we were talking about earlier with pattern matching, you have to be able to understand the fundamentals of pattern matching just to look at the code and understand what it's doing. And yeah, so one of the super exciting things like about Elixir that I love is pattern matching being one, and then supervisors, supervision trees, and the concurrency. And so, yeah, and that's what he's taking advantage of here. When he says, I want to crash something, there's a supervisor that's already assigned and set up and says, oh, well, something crashed. I know how to restart it. Can you imagine, like, you know, I've had that Rails server, you know, that when it crashed, it would require intervention. You know, it's like, wouldn't that be nice if I could really localize the crash? So it's like, not the whole server, but maybe just a little piece crashes and then it recovers. Like, that's the magic of it. Oh, yes.
Yeah, so this is the observer. I can't zoom this in any, so we're just going to have to squint. So this is what the supervision tree looks like. This is my local instance. So here we have, I think the application starts up here, one of these two. And then we start the supervisor, which then I have a top level supervisor that has this is the Ecto database. Here's the whole game. I have the clustering stuff. Part of the clustering I have is called Squabble. That got pulled out. And then we have the web supervisors. So this is all the Phoenix stuff. So here we see the web endpoint. I think these are
those channels
or something. Yeah, it's like a web explorer. Maybe, I don't know, branch stuff. Maybe, who knows. Probably look that up, but here's the pub sub stuff, and this is a cache. Anyway, so this is this tree is the fun stuff. So I have a bunch of caches that fill everything out. There's the internal channels for ExVenture is just a pub sub, pretty simple, that wasn't heavily inspired by Phoenix, but I wanted to write it myself. So here we go. This is a session registry. So when I sign into my local instance, we'll get to watch that light up with something. So there we go. So this session registry it's updating and re-scrolling. So there's a session supervisor that tracks everyone. That is a dynamic supervisor, I think. So you get added, and then you say, hey, session registry, I'm here. And it links you. This does a process link. That's what these blue lines are. So this is So this is me. I am in this room. So this is the game world. This is a zone top level supervisor. This is there's a bunch of stuff going on here. There's a room, NPCs, rooms, and a zone at the bottom. I think that's what this one is. I think this is because it has the blue lines to all of them. So yeah, so when we crash this one, if I do that, if we go here, you can. It was too quick, but these are all brand new. Sort of see it catching up.
So if you guys haven't seen this tool before, this is called Observer. This is built into the Erlang Beam. And this right here is like the tab he's looking at is the applications. And what's really cool about this is this is the visualization of a supervision tree. And it's a tree, like this supervisor is in charge of this set of things, and that includes more supervisors. And the reason we're structuring it that way is to isolate where things blow up and how to recover. And if you right click on one of these things, you have options to kill it. You can just, you don't have to do that, but he just did.
Do it.
He just killed it.
Yeah, and so it refreshed before we had a chance to spot it. So yeah, we can see, looks like we killed the database. That's fun. But everything kept on chugging. But I guess I killed the monitor. I don't know what I killed, but.
So that's just yeah, so then you can look at you can kind of poke around and inspect and see what is this thing, and you can look at the state that it has and kind of dig into it and debug stuff that way.
So this is a room. So you can see what it's actually holding. So there's some NPCs here, and then lots of clicking. Got a bunch of exits. It's holding on to its own zone, any items or shops or whatever that it might have. So yeah, a bunch of stuff to poke around in the observer. You can see, I think here we go. This should be charts, load charts. See the different schedulers, whatnot. All of the processes that this thing is running. And I haven't done tracing with this, but looks like you can.
Yep. So if we want to, there's gossip.
Yep.
So I was wondering if we want to kind of come back to the game. You had some ideas on where might be, for people who are wanting to hack on it, where are some good places to start? If they want to extend it and add something or customize something.
Yeah, so the README has a link to this Trello. It's public. So this is the direction that I'm headed, more or less. A lot of these cards go directly into in progress, though. So yeah, so there's lots of stuff in the background: PvP flag, player shops. You can do. Let's see, is there anyone still hanging out here? No. Let's go. Okay, so yeah, I can say, I can direct it at someone. So this, but on the global channels kind of stuff would be cool. Bunch of stuff, forums, all kinds of different things. If anyone is a JavaScript wizard, apparently I'm doing a React production build, so if you can help fix that, that'd be awesome. Yeah, all of Gossip is open source. This Grapevine thing is open source. And the other thing, if we go to the GitHub page, there's a few to-dos. There's this one bug at the bottom, this number 52, and then there's also an overworld, and I'll show that off briefly. Let's get out of the way. If we make an overworld, I think I just need a. So there's this overworld that you can paint your map.
Wow, that is really cool.
And then, so this is a little tricky. You need to. This only works for adding exits. You have to mark it as a zone exit because otherwise this list gets too huge. So then we go and add an exit. Pick that room. We'll say going north. From here, we'll send you there. Pretty sure that worked. So, okay. Anyways, you can run around here, and it's not as fully featured as the normal rooms, so you can't. There's no shops up here. You can't listen. You can't drop any items or pick them up. There's a few other, like, if you sign in and someone's deleted something, we should probably know that this works or whatever. You cannot change the size of this map. It's just a 50 by 100, and that's it. You can't do doors. Say remote whispers should probably like go further out some amount of spaces since it's more of an open worldy type thing. So yeah, just making this more consistent with the rest of it. And I guess if anyone wants to fix the bug that's happening right now, that'd be great too. Yeah, this is a game, so it's can go forever. So, and has.
Eric presented. I mentioned he presented at ElixirConf, and one of the things he talked about was scaling this. You know, going from 1 node to 3 nodes, and then scaling it. And so, like currently, you got it up to like he created bots to join it just to see how many connections could he get concurrently on one system. And so what was it up to that you went through like 3 iterations?
Yeah, there was I started with a totally unoptimized ExVenture on this desktop that we're looking at. Handled 230 players, which already in and of itself is like a record among MUDs. But after a few steps, the way of like iterating on this and using the Prometheus metrics, I was able to push it all the way up to 3,000, like 31 to 100 or so bots on the same desktop from where it started. And then continuing forward and just kind of see how far I could take it. I undid some features that actually has a issue, if anyone's curious. This is what I did to, like what I turned off to make it work. But that pushed all the way up to 7,100 players, which is sort of insane to have 7,000. Like this is like a World of Warcraft level server on a desktop. So I have a blog post for that. I'll do some shameless plugging, I guess. That
Please.
Is here. So this is like kind of the single process was overloaded by messages and then state size, and then the inbox size was overloaded, and this is where that ended. And then I since took it a lot further. So yeah, I'll sell for 15 times performance.
Yep.
And for reference, there's this thing called MUD stats, where you can look at the 30-day average max. And this is 900 players. So like that's the top game out there. And like our blue pass.
So how is your game not the number one played game then?
That's because there's not a lot of content in Midmud itself. It turns out it's really hard to write stuff. So this is the live data. I only have 7 zones. There's 8 quests. Bunch of NPCs. One thing that you guys might want to go check out. I'll go run there. So there's a Elixir hangout. It's pretty cool. Running past it. Here. Nope. Here. So we'll give this a second, and then we'll have Aaron telling us some puns.
Jose says, "Welcome. Have a seat, and we'll bring you a drink."
So these are just some tweets I took from Aaron Patterson, also known as Tenderlove. So you can, I think there's, whoops, wrong button. Someone's trying to attack me. Oh, I left. There's also, so these are, each room can have extra data, so you can listen places, so nothing can be heard here. I can also there we go. So you can look at specific room features, right? So this is like a room feature, so it's little Elixir things. Can show what that looks like in this part. So you can give it a key so that it highlights white. A little short description if you want to have listen text specifically for that. So if you want to say like, oh, there's birds chirping in the background, you can right here. So when someone types listen, it'll say you hear birds chirping, and then like a further description. Each room has a whole bunch of stuff. The XY map layer, you can change the ecology, which at the moment only changes what the color of the map looks like. A bunch of different exits you can head. There's another fun part for, I guess quests will have this better. So this is the quests have a script. So if anyone's tried interacting with the quests, you haven't dealt with this. So when you have to greet an NPC, and then it'll start talking to you. And then you can, this is just a little tester. So you would type out reply yes, but for this you can just say yes. And then it'll show you like what's coming up next. Got this little React thing going here so that you can fill all this in. So the key is start, right? No triggers. I can trigger a quest or a second line to trigger. If we did line, then it would, what next key, and then how long to wait, so that I can say like, hello, give it a half second. Thanks for talking to me. And then like continue type stuff. Just a simple regex. Yep, go ahead.
So, like, do I remember right that the NPCs are controlled, like they are their own separate processes, like gen servers?
Yeah, they are. Yep.
Yeah. So, like, one of the things that's really cool about that is, like, he has it so, like, the goblin, like, using gen servers, sends a message to itself to say, you know, after some interval of time, you know, after some delay, send a message, and then the goblin will, like, you know, attack you again. And wait for a minute, and then attack you again. And like he's just doing that through gen servers and message sending.
Yep, that's what this is. So this is a combat tick. So whenever you do a type target, it sends it into combat, which then does this tick stuff. Picks randomly between all of the combat ticks that you might have. One of them, it'll echo this to the room, and then, or I guess to you, whoever it's targeting, and then it will do these effects. So this is it's probably just easier to show the page for this, but so these are the different things you could do. So you can do, like, an effect could be a damage over time, could heal you, boost your stats, stuff like that. So yeah, so that's what this is. So this is doing bludgeoning damage to you, 2 points. It'll be shifted slightly depending on. Oops, looks like it was keeps trying to. Anyway, so yeah, so you can see that it's all kind of fun, PvP stuff, whatnot. Getting sidetracked. NPCs are processes, zones are processes, rooms are processes, your processes, and everything else kind of hangs out in with those.
Are there any questions? How much HP do you have?
do I have? You can see right here, 85.
Oh no!
Why did you choose to use Elixir over another language? Or is that just the language at the time you were using?
So Elixir was the first time that I ever got a TCP echo server going. So I'll show something called Mudlet. Gonna have to disconnect from that. So this is getting around not sending a password via telnet because it's plain text. So this is a long way to answer your question, but this was the only previous. So MUDs are connected via telnet typically, and so I could never get. I had been a Rubyist prior, and I could never get like a telnet TCP acceptor server going to the point where like I felt confident in it. And so we switched to Elixir at work. I think one day I was just poking around Branch, which is the TCP acceptor library for the server called Cowboy, which is what Phoenix uses. And I got a TCP, they call it a protocol, a Ranch protocol. I got that stood up and had a nice little echo server, and then got it echoing between all the processes and whatnot. So it was a little chat server, and then it just kept spinning out from there. So yeah, Elixir was the first one that made it work. Lots of people trying to kill me. Yeah. So that's
Elixir
how we
is treat our hosts. Yeah. Our special guests.
Elixir is just the first language that Erlang is set up such that this is kind of a perfect fit. It works very well with stateful services. So yeah, it's a perfect language for the domain.
Yeah, maybe we could talk a little bit about just some of the technology, or like you'd mentioned, like, you know, so it's browser based, so it's using WebSockets to live update and push out chats and everything live. Is there anything else that you think would be helpful to understand, like, so people can look at this and see, okay, that's what I'm actually seeing?
So I guess we can zoom out a little bit so we can see more at once. So there's if you want to check out this is the Telnet protocol, the Ranch protocol rather. So if you want to see how the Telnet stuff works, so this will get started when you connect via Telnet, and then it will start a local session. You can see this is some fancy behind the scenes gen server stuff, because I don't know, it's a little different. So that's fun. Here's where echoing happened. So anytime you echo to, that's actually handled here. So this is a behavior. So you can echo to this up at the top here. So this just casts locally, or cast to your server. So then this gets handled down here, wherever. And then the other place to look at is the web channels telnet channel. So this is the WebSocket, the WebSocket side. So this is a Phoenix channel. Yeah. Along with some extra, there's two side processes that hang out with your channel. So this, now we finally get to the normal. So when you connect on the channel, you just join a telnet with a random UUID. I don't care what it is really. So you just join, and then it has all the handle in stuff, handle info. This is the other side. So this matches up with the telnet version for the casts. And then also spins up a local server. This is your like in-betweener between the telnets, the Phoenix channel sock process, and then your internal process. So there's a lot of gen server stuff going on to make this stuff work, and to make it so that you can have processes crash appropriately, and whatnot. So yeah. And then from there, the next spot this goes is to the game session. This got so big that I had to break this up into a lot of parts. So this is your actual process. This is where all the handle casts and callbacks are. Let's see. We'll get a receive somewhere. There we go. This is your default one. So then it'll get your commands. So this is how we start processing your commands. Comes here, we do process command, makes a parse context, tries to delink stuff. This is specifically, there's a MUD protocol that lets you send HTML-like things. So that gets rid of that. And then we go through the parsing. So the parsing just runs through a list of all the modules and tries to pattern match its way through. And then we run it. And down here is the run. So it does a command run, updates your player processes, triggers some prompts. And that's kind of I guess you're entering a text all the way out. And let's see. I don't think any of these do specific replies. You might see this socket.echo. So there's that. So here's echoing a message. So here's error. The game is experiencing issues. The room's not online.
Nice. Yeah, and that's just matching on that the error, like the tuple on line 83. Error, room offline. So that's part of it. You can't see the rest of it, but that's part of a case statement probably. And
it's a fairly big one, yeah.
Yeah, and so we were talking about case statements earlier and had some questions about them. But yeah, so it's like it's matching the pattern on the left and says, okay, yeah, you said it matched the pattern to say that it was the room error, room offline. Then okay, here's the message to display. Yep, and then send that out on the socket and stop it. Nice. That's really cool. So one of the things I think is interesting is just, why did you decide to build a MUD? Just like, what was your motivation,
Yeah, so I've always been interested in them. I don't really have the attention to play them, but I have the attention to build them. So I had started, I've always wanted to, it's just been kind of like a background thought of trying to build one. But I did Python in college and Java and whatnot, and had a text adventure in Python that I could never figure out threads. So I was like, no, this isn't worth it, whatever. And then moved to Ruby professionally, and that's also threads. What are those? And then eventually Elixir, and yeah. So yeah, it's just always been a background stuff, something that I've wanted to do because it seems cool, like text adventures and whatnot.
Well, I know I don't want to keep you too long, but I want to make sure people have an opportunity to ask any other questions because we have a hard out because the alarms go, and so we have to be out by 8:30. So, but I just are there any other questions or comments or anything that anyone has while we have Eric here? Yes. So the question is, are you going to apply to be a speaker at the next ElixirConf? Presumably about this again, or yeah.
Yeah. So I'll actually, if going to be at the Big Elixir in 2 weeks. I'll be there giving the same ElixirConf talk about going multi-node. As far as next year, I will definitely be applying. I don't know for what, but something.
Any other questions?
I think I would just tell him like that I think this is super cool. And so I've also worked with his Squabble library.
Oh, nice. So Dennis here says he thinks, I don't know if you're able to hear that, but he thinks it's super cool, and he's already worked with your Squabble library. So
Cool.
really,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's this. My
yes.
lovely warning. It works for my production, but maybe not yours.
That's cool. Yeah, and so he's Eric has been building, as he's been building this project, he's like been extracting out these pieces and making them other like supporting libraries like Squabble. And yeah, so Squabble, like he kind of documents like what is this doing? It's like it's an implementation of a portion of the Raft protocol, and he links to all that.
Yeah, so it's this
Consensus
part.
of. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I'll leave. I at least want to mention this before we're done. I've got a bunch of open source stuff. You guys want to poke around? There's ExVenture, the Elixir client for Gossip, Grapevine's up here, Gossip's here, something called Raisin, that's the moderation tool. This is the Gossip backbone is the it's like a Rails engine of sorts for Grapevine and Raisin to have a common sync code. I think that's Squabble. Here's VentureBot. This is the thing that'll spin up. There's no documentation for it, of course, but this is the thing that does all the bots.
Any other questions? Yeah, John. So he doesn't know how you can be working all day and then come home and work on all of this and do all this open source stuff and not get burned out. So what's the secret?
So work from home, step one. You have like an extra 2 hours per day suddenly. Yeah, I think it's like I do Elixir at work, do not as fun stuff there as stuff here. So it's just kind of always doing really cool stuff like this. I've been working on the Gossip recently. So it's like really cool. I will look at this one because it don't steal these keys. So, right. So this is Grapevine is a completely separate node. So we can do, I'll just put, actually, let's do this because it needs to be, oh, cool. It is displayed. So here. So we can instantly update this because it's connected. Right. So I'll save here and then I'll just reload and like it's there. Like this is through like a background WebSocket that just like works. It's really cool. And so just like cool stuff like this of, I don't know, this is it's just super awesome to like, based on like what I've done in Ruby for like webhooks and stuff. And like, it's not quite as fast as this. Then to have it be as fast as this is just like it's like, you can't reload quick enough to like beat this thing. It's always cool projects. I'll do some plugs. This is the Mud Coders Guild. There's a lot of people here that's also doing also amazing stuff. And so talking with these people, it's like a friendly sort of competition spins up. It's like, oh, you did that cool thing. Let me do that cool thing as well. And then you do that cool thing. And then they do that another cool thing. And you just kind of like bounce back and forth. There's a Discord for this. This is in the link for this is on the README page. If you want to join that. So it's just, yeah, kind of building a little community has been pretty great. And I am not going to try and push this on you, but I'm just going to, since it was mentioned of why I keep going, there is a Patreon page. So this also helps. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Eric, for taking the time to join us remotely. Really appreciate it. So I just want to thank you. All right. Well, we are at our time, and I don't want to keep you longer than what we asked you to do. So thank you, Eric. And so I'm also on the Elixir Mix podcast. I'm one of the panelists. And on Tuesday, just this week, we interviewed Eric about some of this stuff and talking about the scaling and some of the problems he overcame. So that will be out in about 3 weeks. I will put a link to that when it comes out, just in the UtahElixir Meetup, so you guys can listen to that podcast. Well, thank you. Thanks, Eric. All right. Thank you, everybody. We're done.